And we're back. Another outstanding episode of the Square Table Degenerates. Today we are joined by former wrestler Francine, the mean queen of Extreme. How are you today, ma'am?
I'm not that mean, by the way, but I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. I was talking to my one buddy. He's like, you better know your stuff, man, because this lady's on the ball when it comes to the wrestling. She knows her stuff.
I know my stuff. I'll school you if I have to.
Heck yeah. Always down to go to school, man. You know how it is. Well, not like formal school, like informal school, like YouTube learning and stuff like that. Like, I'm not trying to write reports.
No,
right?
we're
casual on here. You know how it
goes.
goes.
We're good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Francine, she just tweeted out, actually, Squirrel. So she just tweeted out. So that's good. He was asking about your community tab on YouTube because we're all YouTubers. You're a bunch of famous YouTubers.
Yeah, I have a YouTube. I don't really know how to do that community tab. My producer does that stuff for me.
Okay, yeah, I do it for, I don't know, I just do it for pictures because like some people show their own videos on their community tab. It's like they're gonna get the notification anyways. I don't see the duplication. It makes no sense to me.
I don't really. I'm not too privy on this information. I just show up. So
right, just show up and talk. I feel it.
Yeah, I'm here for you. So
I feel it. Now the internet tells me you were born a couple years ago in Philadelphia. Is that part correct?
I was born a couple years ago. That would make me 2 years old. I was born in Philadelphia. Yes.
Okay. Now, what did your parents do for a living?
So my dad drove a bus. He was a SEPTA driver. If anybody is familiar with the transit in Philly, it's SEPTA. So he drove a bus. My mom worked retail, but then when I was born, she was a stay-at-home mom. So she took care of me. I was the fourth child. I was the baby. So I had two older sisters, older brother. My sisters, my oldest was 22 years older and then 20 years older. And then my brother's 12 years older than me. So yeah, I kind of grew up as an only child, if you think about it. Because everybody was so much older than me. But you know.
Okay, yeah, that was actually gonna be my next question. Were your brothers and sisters? How many did you have? Now, were you a huge fan of like Philly sports in the 80s? Was everything like, all Mike Schmidt, Randall Cunningham, Dr. J? What was up with that?
Pretty much. I still am. I follow mainly the Phillies and the Eagles. I'm not really into hockey. Growing up, though, basketball, I was a Celtics fan. Okay. So I never really liked the 76ers. I liked the Boston Celtics. Kevin McHale was like my everything back then. I just loved him so much. I don't know why. I just thought he was great. So
McHale was on Cheers, man. I did Kevin McHale. I mean, how could you not like the 80s Celtics, man? I mean, Bird, McHale, Parrish, Danny Ainge.
Danny Ainge was. I was a huge fan of him. Larry Bird. I was a Villanova fan as well. So I liked the college basketball, but I never got into the Sixers. I don't know why. Just they never did it for me.
They had some good players, but I don't think they ever won it. I think that was the thing too. I mean, Dr. J was phenomenal back then when he came over from the ABA there and started just transforming dunks and everything. I mean, remember that video game, Dr. J versus Larry Bird back in the Atari?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I'm not a bandwagon jumper though. Like I like who I like. If they suck, they suck. I still like them. I still support them. But the Sixers just never did it for me. I don't know why.
Now, did you yourself, as you were growing up in like middle school and all that, did you play any sports coming up, or what was your like daily activities? What did you do?
Yeah, so no, I went to Catholic school my whole life. I didn't. I played basketball on the court, like at playground league. Not even like wasn't really on a team or anything. I used to play with the boys because the girls didn't really play basketball back then. I was a cheerleader. So that was the only sport I really did was cheerleading, if you call that a sport. Some people do, but
right. Now we're still doing the gummies for super chat. So if you do super chat me, I will pop a gummy. Today's flavor is blue raspberry. Thanks, CML. Appreciate it, brother.
Now, are they just regular gummies or are they special gummies?
Oh, they're infused. We're a very THC friendly show.
Gotcha. Okay.
Don't like to overtly promote that because, like, you know how they are with advertising. It was wild because, like, I had a couple of random shows. We just got monetized like last week.
Oh, congrats. Very good.
Thank you. And I was going back to some of the old shows and stuff, and like the Tommy Chong show we did, there was all kinds of weed smoking on it. They didn't say nothing. It was full monetization, but like the Buff Bagwell interview we did, we had Buff on there, and for some reason they put the limited on that. And that's probably my most watched interview because, Buff's a hot mess sometimes. So it's like.
Okay. Very good. Well, yeah, I was just curious.
Oh, for sure. Now, let's see here. See where we're at. Now it says you were working for an insurance company, right?
Was, yes. I was working
And you got bored and joined the ECW school. Is that kind of how it went?
Kind of, sort of. I graduated high school, and my librarian from school got me a job over at a place called Provident Mutual. It was in Center City, Philadelphia. I started in the mailroom. You had to work 6 months before you could apply for your next position. So I did the mailroom for 6 months, and then I applied to do data entry, and I got the job. Yeah, it was very boring. I had a cubicle, no window. I remember once I hung a picture of like a Chippendale, and I got in trouble for it. Like, I hated it so much. It was just, I just didn't like it. And I remember telling my dad at the time, I was just like, I got in a fight with one of the agents. He blamed me for something I didn't do, and it made me cry. I was very, very unhappy. And my dad was like, well, if you don't like it, you just quit. And we had a house down the shore at the time. And he's like, just come down the shore, spend your summer, relax, and then figure out what you want to do. So I was like, okay. So I ended up quitting that position. But then I started watching wrestling, and I saw a commercial for ECW. And it was like, if you want to be a manager, referee, or, wrestler, call this number. I'm just like, oh, I'm just going to pick up the phone and call this number for people I don't even know who they are and see what this is about. And that's exactly what I did. And they just told me, you have to go meet Todd Gordon. And I said, okay. And I didn't really know who Todd was because I was only watching the program for like a month or two. I didn't know any wrestlers. I didn't know what was going on. And my dad drove me down there. It was on Jewelers Row. It was a pawn shop. It had like the bars on the windows. You had to press the button to get in the door and, be buzzed through. And the lady's just like, oh, go see Todd. He's down the hall. And it was like a prison movie or something. I'm walking down this long corridor by myself. I'm scared to death. And, I saw Todd, and the first thing he said was, you're very pretty. You won't have to bump. I didn't know what a bump was. So I was like, oh, okay. And here I bumped my whole career. So who knew? But that's how it started. I just picked up the phone and I called. And so always try, never be afraid, because you never know what could happen.
Angie says you're an inspiration, Francine.
Angie, adorable. Thank you so much.
J-Rock says, cheers, everyone. And that's a sexy, badass chick right there. Badass.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Now, before you worked at the insurance company, like after you graduated high school, and before you got into all this, like, was there any thoughts to join the service, going to college? What'd you do in that little gap period right there?
I always wanted to be a nursery school teacher. So I was going to go to community college at first. And then I said to myself, oh, let me take a year off and see what happens. Because, like I said, the librarian that I knew got me that job. So I thought, well, maybe if I could get my foot in the door here, then I could, just keep moving up the ladder. But I found out very quickly that insurance was not my forte. So it didn't work out for me.
We got a question from Blake. He says, Francine, are you a fan of Jim Cornette?
I am a fan of Jim Cornette. I think he was a brilliant manager. He's very opinionated. You could say whatever you want, your opinion. I actually met him for the first time. I met him in ECW, but it was a very quick meeting when he came in and did his little stint with us. But I actually got to talk to him at one of these conventions, and he was lovely. He was very nice to me. So I don't have anything bad to say about him.
Okay. Squirrel says nobody is a fan of Cornette except him.
Well, you can't knock him for his work. He's a brilliant manager, brilliant mind.
Oh, yeah. I mean, with anything in the wrestling business, I mean, we have to concede. I mean, there might be different attitudes. Some people are more assholes than others, but I mean, you can never knock their work ethic. I mean, wrestlers are some of the hardest. I mean, the travel, the staying in shape, the dealing with idiots. That's a lot. That's a rough life, man.
It really is. I can attest to that. So,
all right. So my next question was, you saw the advertisement. So they just said you made screw life. I'm just going to go into wrestling. You just threw everything against the wall. Was there any backups in case that kind of thing didn't work? I mean, you just kind of knew you were going to make it.
No backup whatsoever. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I went in thinking I was going to be this female wrestler. And then when I met Paul Heyman, he told me he did not see money in female wrestling at this time. You know, this was the 90s. Now it's not 2022. He said I would make my money as a manager and to trust him. And that's what I did. And he was 100% correct. So.
Paul Heyman, wow, it's not a blast from past. He still kind of does it, but man, he goes back all the way, right? He's like one of the OGs.
He started as a photographer. He was like taking pictures and just worked his way up, and he's brilliant. You know, he's got a great mind for the business. His stories that he tells are just, I mean, I've never met somebody with such a mind for wrestling, and also that can convince you that the sky is green and grass is blue, and you will believe the man. Like he's just got a knack for it. And I can't say anything bad about Paul, because if it wasn't for Paul, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. So I credit him with giving me the ball and letting me run with it.
All right, we got a question from Spicy. Any words for the XPW show years ago? I'm not sure what that means.
I am. So
Okay.
We did a pay-per-view in 2000, and XPW came and caused trouble. And I just think it was very unprofessional.
No, okay, enlighten me, because I'm not the biggest wrestling fan. I mean, I do watch wrestling, but like, what exactly happened during this? What is XPW and what happened with this?
So XPW was a California-based promotion at the time, ran by Rob Black. They would come to ECW, and Rob came to several of our shows. And I liked Rob. Very, very nice guy. And he brought some of the adult entertainers with him, and everybody he brought, they were super, really nice people, you know. The date of this show, it was our first show in LA, and it was a pay-per-view, and it was a big show for us. And we went in knowing that a bunch of their wrestlers bought front row tickets. And I was told that the only thing that they were told was you can't wear your XPW shirts on camera. I don't know if that's my memory. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what I remember. And at the time, a girl named Jasmine St. Clair was working for us. She was previously working for XPW. Now she's with ECW. So she's showing us on the monitor who's who in this front row, so we know what's going on. We told Atlas, our security guards, just keep an eye just in case something weird happens, because you never know with these people what can happen. So the whole show goes without a hitch. Everything's fine. Main event comes, which is where I'm involved. And it's Just Incredible versus Tommy Dreamer. We also have Gorgeous Georgian. We have Jazzin, myself. Everybody's involved in this match. They announce us, and I jump down from ringside, and I'm just standing there, and from behind, I hear this huge pop. But nothing's going on in the ring. Nothing's happening. So I'm like, what is going on? And I happen to turn around, and the girl that they brought with them, I think Christy, is standing on a chair. And she took her shirt off. And so she's got big boobs, you know, she's a pretty girl, big boobs. And she's like kind of standing there, and that whole section is just like, yeah, you know, there's, of course, you see boobs, you're going to scream, right?
Right.
So I get pissed off now. And I just walked over to her, and I kind of just gently tapped her on the shoulder. No one hit anybody. There were no fists thrown. She looked at me, and it was kind of like she turned milk white, and it was a deer in the headlights, and she's just staring at me, and I said, get off the chair. And she wouldn't get down. And I just kept saying, can you get off the chair? Well, while I'm talking to the girl, the guys take their shirts off, and it's XPW, and they're doing this. I guess this is their mating call or whatever the hell it was. And everybody goes crazy. The Atlas security comes over, and there's a scuffle, but the one wrestler, I think his name was Supreme, he knocked into the girl, and the girl went flying off her chair. So she fell off her chair. I never touched her. She never touched me. Like, there were no punches involved. But at this point, Joey Styles, who was our announcer, he's not going to put XPW over on our show, on our pay-per-view. So he just says a fan grabbed Francine. There was, you know, the locker room clears. Everybody's jumping the guardrail. Tommy Dreamer comes and grabs me and says, get in the ring. So I get in the ring, and we're all waiting. And it costs like 5 or 6 minutes of the match. So we had to take out spots. It was unprofessional. It shouldn't have happened. It pissed me off because you pride yourself in your work, and it was a big night for us, and it was the main event, and these guys had worked really hard preparing this match, and now 6 minutes of it or whatever time amount is gone because you guys wanted to be idiots.
I got to look that up. I've never heard this story before. That's why. Now, as a side note, I mean, that sucks for you and like all the guys in there, but like, imagine that security guard coming in, getting to tackle the topless chick. He was probably digging his job that day.
I mean, she had a bra on. It wasn't like she was bare. Oh yeah, no, she had a bra on, but it was still, it's disrespectful.
Oh, for sure.
There's an amount of, I don't know, like I respect other promotions. I respect other workers. I would never, ever go to somebody else's show and try to put the spotlight on myself. Like that's not cool. And I don't know what they were just trying to make a name for themselves. And I guess it worked because that was the talk of the town. But like back then, there wasn't much social media. If it happened today, it would be a huge story. But, back then it was just like an underground thing that you had to know somebody who was there to get the story, But
that would have broke on Twitter in like 2 seconds.
Oh, yeah, of course. The video would have been up. It would have been all over the place. But
if we're being dead real, I mean, there probably would have been 3 or 4 insiders who would have probably tweeted out, "Oh yeah, XPW is going to be a Francine show," and
I guess I just feel it was very unprofessional. It was uncalled for. It shouldn't have happened.
Oh, agreed. All right, Blake writes, when I was a child, I cried when Francine turned on the pit bulls and joined Shane Douglas.
Oh.
With that being said, what is Shane Douglas like? Seems real cool.
Blake, I'm sorry I made you cry. Shane and I are still friends to this day. We still talk. We probably talk like every day, every other day. We still do conventions together. He's an awesome friend. He's been a friend for over 25 years, going on 30 years. Good Lord. It's been a while. Yeah. So we're actually going to be at the gathering in North Carolina. I think it is together in August.
Okay. So, I'm going to North Carolina in September before the Browns game though. Because they're playing. Because Baker just got traded. Well, I was going regardless, but it's gonna be fun now that Baker's a Panther. All right, now back in the old wrestling school, what sort of things did they teach you in the school back then? Like anything that stuck out, like that would shock people today? Like why would they tell talent this? You know what I mean?
No, it was just basic bumps back then. And again, you have to remember, I thought I was going to be a female wrestler, so I was the only woman there. It was all guys. My trainer was JT Smith. Stevie Richards was there helping out as well. And then I did have a tryout match in front of Todd, who then told Paul what he saw, but just Paul had a different vision for me. So, I did take a lot of bumps, but we wrestled when we felt it was necessary.
Now, do you think the school, well, I mean, the next question is, do they have like female-centric schools now? I mean, they kind of didn't know what to do with you back then. They just gave you the guy stuff and threw you in a valet route. Like, what do you think there'll be the difference between the school now and back then? A lot of difference, no? Or what do you think?
I don't think so. I think you just, you find a good school, you train, whether you're a female or a male. The females train with the males all the time. It's not like I don't believe they have certain classes for just female workers. All the schools that I know of, they're integrated, and like I said, if there were more females at the time training, I'm sure I would have worked with them more. But at that moment, it was like me and then like 7 or 8 guys. And Paul, I don't think he just threw me into a role. I just think he knew where the money would come from, and he was 100% right. So I'm glad it went the way it did.
All right. Squirrel says Spike was awesome. Who else was that nice from ECW back in the day?
99.9% of the locker room was great. We still are a family. It sounds so corny, but if you ask anybody, the word family always comes up. And it's like, if you haven't seen somebody for a year, but you call them and you say, hey, can we do this? Or I need this, boom, they'll do it for you. You know what I mean? I've kept in touch with mostly everybody from the locker room. And it's like I said, almost 30 years later, we're still all, talking, and we get excited when we can do conventions together. It's a brotherhood.
It's awesome. All right. BC says, I remember when another company were taking talent from ECW and Shane did a promo and he said, the next person that this company is going to take, and it's him, and that's because they went franchise.
Well, he did leave for WCW. So, and I never knocked anybody for leaving. I mean, you go where the grass is greener. If you can make more money, you have to support your family. And I understood that. I was offered something in 1995 from WWF, and I just felt like I was too green. And I just didn't want to leave, and I wanted to stay. I was comfortable with ECW, and I just wanted to learn more. And I would have never left that company. I loved it there.
For sure. All right, we got a question. You don't have to answer this if you want. What is your take on Sunny? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it breaks my heart to see what's going on. I don't condone her behavior at all. I hate what this has become. I just had her on my podcast not too long ago, and she was saying, "Oh, I'll never go back to jail, this, that, and the other thing," and here we are again. So it infuriates me, because there's Ubers, there's Lyft, there are other options that you could use, and she just made a really, really dumb mistake again. You can't justify it.
Yeah, I mean, people know my past. I've had a couple DUIs in the past. Thank God nothing happened. I'm quit drinking now, but yeah, I mean, you just, plan for tonight. I mean, if you're going to go out there, you're going to get drunk, find a way home, or have a place to crash. I mean,
you have to learn from your mistakes, they're not mistakes anymore. They're just choices. You keep making the wrong choices, and it's going to catch up with you. So,
sure.
Sucks.
All right, we got a question from JV. He says, what is your favorite and least favorite part of the pro wrestling industry?
Favorite part is the camaraderie and the friends that I've made. Least favorite part is politicking. Never did I have to politic in my life. And then when I worked for WWE, I was told I needed to politic, and I didn't last very long. So I don't like that part. Shady.
All right, we got a question from Angie. She says, who inspired you to live your dream?
My dad. My dad was 100% behind my choice. My mom, to this day, hated it. She called it. She said, when you're 40, you're going to feel the pain. She's 100% right, because I could barely move these days. But, back then, my dad would come to the shows with me, sit in the front row, watch everything. God rest his soul. He was my biggest fan. So
good stuff. My dad too. Got the same thing. My dad passed away as well. I love my father. Great stuff there. Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, we got another question from Squirrel. He says, who is Francine's favorite active male and female wrestler
that is active today?
Yeah.
Huh. I don't really watch wrestling anymore. I can't answer that. I don't know. I mean, I could tell you of all time, female Sherry Martel, 100% was my favorite worker.
That's a good one. Let's go down that line. Sensational Sherry, for those. I mean, they gave her that scary Sherry role.
Yeah.
And man, was that kind of degrading? Like, she'd go everywhere, and the people were like, "Scary Sherry." It was kind of.
No, it's heat, man. It's
heat. Okay. Oh yeah. You like that stuff? Okay.
I mean, people called me a crack whore, and it shaded HIV at me, and God knows what else they called me, but it was all heat. If you don't get a reaction, you're not doing your job correctly.
It's so funny. Crack whore.
Yeah, she's a crack whore. I was not a crack whore. I never had HIV, and that's that.
All right. Spicy says, who would be your favorite original rival back in the original ECW?
I loved working with Beulah. I think her and I just started the whole catfight wars kind of thing. People loved us together, working together, working across from each other. We always had fun with it. Yeah, she's probably my favorite.
Good deal. Now, what was your first on-screen appearance, like first time going out from the school? What was that like when you first went out in front of fans? Were you like excited, nervous at the same time? What were you wearing? What was it like? I mean, it's got to be overwhelming, no?
At first, for like the first year or year and a half, they had me doing house shows. So I didn't go on TV right away. First TV appearance, I was a plant. So I had on because I was working with Stevie Richards. So Stevie would wear the little booty shorts and a half shirt. So I went out and I got Stevie Richards airbrushed on my shorts, and I had on this little crop top and stuff, not knowing that I would have to sit in a 99% male filled arena. So you got guys that are touching your hair or touching your shirt. And I'm just like, sitting here like, oh my God, please get me. Yeah. And they knew I was a plant because they escorted me out right before our segment. So it wasn't like I had to sit there the whole time. But it was just like very uncomfortable. You know what I mean? I remember that. And I also remember a time where Beulah and I made the mistake of fighting over the guardrail. And that's a no-no if you're girls. They started groping us, kicking us. I mean, stepping on our hair. It was a mess. I grabbed her and I said, we got to get out of here. So I literally threw her back over the guardrail because I was like, this isn't going to fly. But I loved our fans. Our fans were the best fans in the world.
Did you back then? Did you like tell your friends like, "Hey, come to the shows," or you just did it and made new friends at the show? Like, did you have like your cousins, uncles, and friends down the street coming to your thing, or how'd that work?
I had friends from like grade school and high school come in the beginning. Unfortunately, this business, it's hard to keep friends because you're never home. You're on the road 4 or 5 days a week. And a lot of my friends couldn't understand why I couldn't go out on the weekends with them. I had to miss a wedding. I had to miss this. If you miss a weekend, your spot might be taken from you. Yep. And you can't just say to a promoter, I'm not going to come in this weekend, because if you're on TV, they need you. So, you know, I lost a lot of friends because I was always on the road. When I first started, I wasn't actively working, so they would come and they would sit in the crowd and cheer me on. But I guess they understood what was going on. They just weren't very happy about it.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Colin says, Francine, what sport do you watch and have passion for these days, if any?
Yeah, so I'm a football fan, so I like the Eagles and the Phillies for baseball. Like I said earlier, I'm not really into hockey or basketball, but football mainly, and then I keep tabs on the Phillies as well.
Yeah, where were you when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and how did you celebrate?
I was in Disney World.
No way.
I was in Disney World, and we Tony DeVito, who's a baldy, every year, like, he'll come and he'll have dinner. We'll catch up because he's down there in Florida, and I think they were over, but they left. But my kids were sleeping, and it was me and my husband, and we were watching it. And when they won, I was jumping up and down, but I couldn't wake the kids up because we're in a hotel. But I remember I watched it at Disney, and then the parade was like the next day, but we were at the other park, so we didn't get to see the parade because it was you couldn't even move.
We were watching that Jason Kelsey speech the other day on YouTube. It's so great. It's so great because he's from this area. I'm from Cleveland, and he man, if you ever get a chance, go back and watch Jason Kelsey's Super Bowl speech. He basically lists the whole team and says everything that the critics said about him. It's all from memory. It's like 4 or 5 minutes. It's great. Maybe the best Super Bowl speech of all time. All right, we got a question from Rico. Thanks for the super chat, brother. He says, question, I think he meant to say you, not Angie. Angie's in the chat. Worst hair injury you have ever seen or happened to you?
Worst hair injury?
Yeah, like anybody get a hair pull out, extensions yanked, something like that?
I never wore extensions. I always had my own long hair. I don't know. Girls have had, I guess they've had hair ripped out before. I don't know. Nothing with my hair. I mean, I broke my nose. I broke my pelvis. I cracked my head open, stuff like that, but nothing with my hair.
Nice. All right. Squirrel says, who is Francine's ECW Mount Rushmore? That's a tough one.
That's a tough one. There's so many good people. I don't know. I mean, you have to put Paul Heyman up there, right? I think you would have to put Joey Styles, because for years he was just a one-man band and he did it so well. I'd have to put Shane Douglas up there too. I don't know about the fourth person. That's tough. I have so many friends.
Now, what about I've had Raven on this show and I've looked about Sandman. What do you think about the Sandman? Is that guy really that crazy, or is he just?
I love Sandman. Him and I are working together in a couple weeks in Ohio and Erie, PA. We're doing 2. I don't even know what they are. Probably in stores. Together signings. I still talk to him. Again, he's a friend. He doesn't drink as much as he used to. And now it's like when we all get together at these shows afterwards, instead of like going to a bar or something, we just pick a hotel room and we all sit around. We talk about our kids. We talk about, what they did at school, what their achievements are. It's like basically our kids and our family life. We're adults now. It's dynamic, but it's fun and we love it.
We can't party like we did back in the day. I mean, half of us quit drinking, but I mean, the hangovers will last 2-3 days.
No, I 1 or 2 cocktails is my limit, and that's on a special occasion. I'm not a big drinker.
All right, JB says, what's the worst injury you suffered in the ring?
Yeah, so Bam Bam Bigelow, I was doing a spot with him, and I said, well, what do you want to do out there? And he says, oh, just run at me and I'll do something to you. And so he never told me what the spot was. So I said, okay, because I trust my fellow workers. And he picked me up and he pressed me and I'm in the air and he just dumped me on my side and I broke my pelvis in 2 places. So I couldn't walk. I couldn't get up and I couldn't put any pressure on my left side. They take me to the back and I'm in tears. And Paul's like, you got to get in the ambulance. Because we always had an ambulance in the back just in case. I said, I'm not going to the hospital. And he said, well, he goes, if you can climb the steps, because if you've ever seen the arena, if you watch Beyond the Mat, Paulie's giving a speech and he's on those wooden steps that goes to the 2nd floor of the arena. He said, if you can climb up the steps, you won't have to go. So I tried to stand up and I collapsed because I couldn't put any pressure on my left leg. So they took me to the hospital and here it was broken in like 2 places. So I was on crutches for like 7 weeks. I never missed a show though.
That was actually one of my questions. That was because I read about the Bam Bam Bigelow thing. Well, let me just jump ahead to that question. Let me see. Actually, you know what? Let me continue with these other questions. We'll come back to that because that's a good line there. All right. Duke says, what and who were the hardest hitters you faced?
Hardest hitters. Terry Funk. Terry Funk, I love him. I love Terry. Can't say a bad thing about him. But when he's in the ring, he is so hyped up. And we did right after Holyfield and Tyson did the ear. Remember when he bit his ear?
Yeah.
Okay. So Paul thought I should bite Terry Funk's ear because we were playing off of that angle. And so I bite Terry Funk's ear. And he, gigs and there's blood all over me. And he takes me in the ring. We go back in the ring and he literally just looks at me and smacks me across the face. And I didn't know the smack was coming. I've never been hit that hard in my life. He then grabs me and just throws me over the top rope. And I'm like, that wasn't a cold spot either, but it's Terry Funk. So what do? You go in the back and you say, thank you, Terry. And he said, oh, is that okay? And I was like, oh, it was brilliant. It was great. But when you don't know something's coming, the man can hit. He hits hard. So.
Actually, that could lead into the next question. Now, back then, they used to have the male and female talents whoop it up. And some of the stuff they would do seems incomprehensible today. I mean, they'd be sitting there talking in a normal conversation. The guy would just whack the girl upside the head. Now, like, is that the way, the way ECW did it? Is that the way they want wrestling?
I mean we always made it make sense. You don't just walk up to a girl and smack her for no reason. I was a heel manager. So if I got involved in the match, of course I'm going to get my ass kicked because I just did something to the babyface. You have to make it make sense, and we always told a story. And I think that was one of the things that was so great about ECW is that storytelling from the 90s can still hold up to today in 2002.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you think back to all the glory days when people talk, they always talk, oh, yeah, ECW, and then, the Attitude Era. I mean, the Attitude Era is a direct result of ECW. I mean, if you follow the stuff ECW did, WWE was doing it a couple years later.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that whole rated PGR kind of thing, there's a market for that, but I don't know how they're going to do it in corporate America today. I mean, it's
hard today with, everybody. It's sensitive, you have to watch what you have to say. There's also like the Me Too thing. You have to be very careful. Back then we always pushed the envelope, but I don't think we ever crossed the line except for the one angle that they did with the crucifixion. To me, that was in just very poor taste. I didn't like it. I grew up Catholic.
Me too.
I remember when it happened, I got my ass right up off that chair and I went right up to Paul and I got in his face and I said, you have to have Raven apologize. That was distasteful and it was disgusting. People actually walked out the door.
No shit. Wow.
They left, and I've never seen that at one of our shows because we've done some crazy stuff. You know what I mean? To me, that crossed the line. It's the only thing I never agreed with. I didn't like it, and Scotty did apologize. It wasn't a very good apology. I could tell it wasn't heartfelt. He did it because he had to, but that was the only thing that I found to be in poor taste.
Oh, gee. All right, we got a question from Spicy. He says, any words about Daphne and mental health in wrestling?
Well, and as you all know, Daphne was one of my best friends in the world. I mean, she was in my wedding. You know, she would come up my house. She knew my children. She knew my husband. Every time my phone would ring, I'd answer it because I knew she needed me. And there would be times when I sat with her 2, 3, 4 hours and just let her cry. But I couldn't hang up because I was always scared that she was going to do something. You know? Right. And the night that it happened, when she was on IG, I didn't know she was on there. A friend had texted me and said, Shannon's on IG right now, and my heart just sank. And we were all on there just calling her phone. You could hear her phone ringing. She felt like she was alone, but she wasn't alone. But her brain couldn't comprehend how many people really loved her. And it's just, it breaks my heart because she was like a sister to me, and I tried everything to be there. I was there for her. She didn't want to be saved. She didn't. She had a plan. She cut me off 2 weeks before this happened. She wouldn't return any of my phone calls. I reached out, and it was planned. So,
nice.
Yeah.
All right, Lep wants to know, when you're coming to Ohio, where at in Ohio are you going to be? You said you're in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Niles, Ohio.
Niles, okay, that's out by Youngstown, so it's probably about 80 minutes from you, Lep, or so, give or take.
I don't know, because it's Niles, Ohio, and Erie, PA.
All right, Niles is probably 30 minutes from Erie, so it's not too far. It's right down the road.
On the same day, and I believe it's on the 23rd of July. So
okay, if you stop in the airport, say hi. I live right by the Cleveland Airport. All right, Lex says, Francine, what was your favorite fight? So, like, favorite match maybe you ever had?
I think I'm gonna go with the Four Corners match. It was Shane Douglas, Pitbull 2, Too Cold Scorpio, Chris Jericho, because that's the night I turned on the Pitbulls and went through the table and joined forces with the franchise. I think it elevated my career and started a beautiful friendship and partnership. So. And Jack, you're 100% right. Take care of yourself and just talk to people. And you're not alone. You might think you're alone, but you're not alone.
No, we say that a lot, quite a bit. If you're out there, I mean, reach out to me, anybody in the community. We're all here for. I mean, there's certain limitations in life. I mean, if you're gonna have breakdowns every 3 days, you probably should seek some help. I mean, just minor life shit. People do care about you. They really do. Yep. They really do.
Yeah.
All right, we got a question from Blake. He says, what is Sabu like? Dude looks legit crazy.
I still talk to Sabu as well. He's not crazy. He might be crazy in the ring with his spots that he chooses to do. Nicest person you'll ever meet. You know, a lot of these guys, you have to get to know them for them to, break their wall. And he's been my friend for years, and he's got a good heart and he's a good person and I love him. So he's a good dude.
All right, Doof says, I'll say the mats on the ring in ECW always had a better sound when somebody got slammed, and it hurt like hell. Thank you for the injuries.
That's because our mats weren't this thick. They weren't pillows, But you're welcome for the injuries. I don't really like them, but I'm glad you do.
All right, Blake says, is it true that Kurt Angle was there during the crucifixion angle, and that's what made him not sign with ECW?
Yeah, Kurt was there that night. Shane and I, Shane and him had the Pittsburgh connection. So I think Shane actually helped set that whole thing up. And before the show, we were all standing there and we were talking, and Kurt seemed excited to be there. And then when that happened, his face just dropped and he was just like, I'm done. And that was all he had to see, And it was probably a better decision for him not to stay with us because he made a hell of a lot more money with WWF. But we were this close to to having Kurt on our team.
Nice. Now I got to talk about the WWF real quick. Is it true? I read this on your wiki, so I'm assuming it's true.
Oh, wiki's always true.
Right, it's always 100% accurate. But the Vince McMahon called you up, and he wanted you to be Brother Love's valet, known as Sister Love.
Sister Love, yeah. So 1995-ish, I guess. I was with the Pitbulls. I was getting calls from the office. A man named Ed Cohen was calling me. When I wasn't home, he would talk to my parents. He would tell my parents, oh, tell her to come to us. We'll make her more money. So my mom would say, oh, that nice man Ed Cohen called again. He said you'd make more money with them than with Paul. And, you know, my mom didn't understand the business. And I barely understood the business because I was only there for a couple years. At the end of each conversation, Ed would tell me, don't tell Paul we talked. So after about a month or so, I felt guilty and I went to Paul and I said, listen, this man named Ed Cohen keeps calling me. And Paul's face just dropped. And he's like, well, did they offer you something? I said, yeah. And I told him, and he said, I can't compete with their money. And I said, can I get a raise? If you give me a raise, I'll stay. And he goes, yeah, I'll give you a raise. And he goes, you want to hug it out? And I go, yeah. And I hugged Paul, and that was the raise, and I stayed. And I told Ed the next time, I said, I'm going to stay with ECW. And he goes, I think you're making a mistake. I said, well, so be it. I just wanted a raise. That's all I wanted was a raise. And I got it.
I'm not going to lie. I think of you as Sister Love, and I think of, do you remember Deborah McMichael when she used to come out in the business suits?
Yeah.
A all white business suit, that'd have been the hotness. Now, the gimmick would have probably sucked, but you in that all white would have been nice.
Listen, I remember them telling me you'll never have to bump. You're not going to have to bump. You're just going to be an arm piece for him. And I said to myself, is that why I'm in this business? I want to work. I don't want to paint my face red and just stand there and do nothing. I want to work. Honestly, like, you know, it wasn't for me, you know, and plus I was learning so much and I was so comfortable with the people that I was working with. I didn't want to leave. I liked being the big fish in the small pond, you know.
Now, what is your opinion of Vince McMahon overall? I mean, is the guy an actual human in terms of like
a robot
relating to emotion and how people work? Does he just do whatever the hell he wants because he's never been told no? What's your take on that guy?
I have had minimal conversations with Vince McMahon. The one conversation that I had with him was when I kept I was getting called in Johnny Ace's office all the time. And, you know, it would end up with me being in tears, telling Johnny, I want to quit. I want to leave. I don't want to be here. With Johnny saying, no, it's going to be great. Blah, 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 you know, bullshit, whatever. And I just would pitch things and they just didn't listen. You know, they didn't care. And the one day Johnny pulled me twice out of catering. I was trying to eat and I got pulled out twice. And then I went to get my draw. And I heard, Francine, can I talk to you in this really deep voice? And I turn around and it's Vince McMahon. And everybody's like, oh, what's going on? And I was like, sure. And we actually took a lap around the arena that we were at. And he basically just told me he didn't know what I could do. He didn't watch my work. And I was kind of offended. And I just looked at him and I said, but you bought our tape library. And he goes, but I never watched your stuff. And I'm saying to myself, why would you hire someone you don't know what they're capable of doing? That just, I don't know. I mean, I know he has a staff that watches things and maybe they report it back or whatever. They just were not interested in anything that I had to offer. So to this day, I still don't know why I was hired. I pitched things. He told me that day to find him at the next Raw and smack him on the back and say, hey, Vince, what do you got for me? So I saw him down the corridor. I saw him standing with a bunch of suits and I ran like an ass and I smacked him. I said, hey, Vince, what do you got for me? And he literally hugged me and he said, that's my girl. And he walked away. And so now I'm standing there by myself and I said, what just happened? Like, I don't understand. But when I went to look at the paper always was taped to the wall and who was working the next day, my name was on there. So I was on TV because I smacked Vince on the back and I said, hey, Vince, what do you have for me? You know? So they paired me with Balls Mahoney. But the problem with that was Balls took a piss test and had drugs in his system and he was taken off the road. So that only lasted two episodes. So now I have nobody to work with. And they call me and they say, well, get your bikini. You're going to go back to the bikini thing, the bikini showdowns, which I hated with a passion. But initially I was told that I was going to be put with Test. And then we were going to be this monster heel team, which I was all about. I was like, this is going to be great. It got scrapped. I don't know what happened. I have no idea. They were not interested. Like the one time Vince watches you have to show him what you're going to do that night for TV. So he's at ringside. You have to do your entrance. You have to get in the ring. You have to go through every motion in slow motion. I went over to the side and I said to Vince, can Kevin Thorne bump me? Can I take his finisher? And he goes, oh no, we don't do that here. I'm like, well, what do you do? What can I do? I want to do something. Let me work. No one cared. I lasted 6 months, whatever.
That's great. Paul says, did you ever meet Rowdy Piper?
I did. Yes. Nice man.
Good deal. Yeah, Rowdy has what a great worker. Yeah, I go back and watch some of he was on Howard Stern a couple times, just random interviews. And man, he's the poster boy for why I don't think we're ever going to see it because it's a promotion run by, for lack of a better term, grifters, but like they needed like a union or something. I mean, back then, now it's a lot better, but back in the 80s, 90s, my God. I mean, Roddy Piper was one of the hardest workers ever. He's talking about how at 59 he needed health, and he didn't have no health insurance. It's just pathetic stuff. It's like, my God, poor bastard. I really like Piper.
Yep. You got to be very diligent with saving your money.
Oh, yeah. Blake says, who was the one talent you wished you never worked with, or that you never worked with that you wish you could have?
Sherry Martel. Sherry's one of the reasons why I wanted to get into business. And Sherry was with ECW when I started. So I got to talk to her one night. She scared me a little bit because she told me a story about her going to Japan and drinking the whole time that she was on the plane. And then she had to wrestle as soon as she got off the plane. And like, I'm green as grass. And I'm like, oh God, you guys drink before you work like that. And that's not really safe, is it? And she was like, no, we were fine. But she's like, I can't wait to get you and grab your hair and pull you around and this and that. And I'm looking at her like, this is my idol. Like, I love you so much. I can't wait to work with you. And then like the next show, she wasn't there. And I was like, well, where's Sherry? And they're like, oh, she's with WCW now. She's working with Harlem Heat. And I was like, no, what just happened? Like, I wanted to work with her so badly. So I never got to work with her, but I got to meet her. So I was
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Squirrel says, your thoughts on Luna Vachon?
Luna was great. Luna worked with us for a while. I never got to work with her directly, but I did share a locker room with her, and she was a very sweet lady. Very, very sweet.
Good deal. All right, Lad says, which promotion does women wrestlers the most justice? So probably most opportunities for women, most fair, that kind of thing.
I mean, nowadays, women's wrestling has evolved. WWE is doing pay-per-views solely with women. They're main eventing. AEW showcases their women's matches too. I think women's wrestling has come a really long way. So.
Now, you were talking about earlier how you didn't like the bikini contest. I'm going to touch on that for a little bit. Because going out there when it's basically they're not admiring you for your like athletic ability. They just want to, ogle you. Is that kind of stuff like, did they push that too much? Was that a little bit demeaning in your opinion? Like, could they have done that a little bit less? Is that just part of the game? What's your thoughts on that?
I never really had to do with Paul. Like, I think I did one bikini showdown and it was to set up an angle. It wasn't even really a bikini thing. We were doing it every single week in WWE. And when you have kids in the audience, little kids, it's uncomfortable, man. Their father's faces, they're like covering their eyes or turning their heads, and we're out there in thongs. It was really embarrassing. I hated every minute of it. I didn't like it. And I kept pitching different ideas. They didn't care. Like, they didn't want to hear it. I don't know if it's because I wasn't homegrown. I already had a name because I was even told I couldn't use Queen of Extreme, which I had used for 13 years prior to me signing with them. Like, I couldn't do anything. They didn't care what I did in my past. So I thought maybe if I pitched ideas, they would see how badly I wanted to work. They didn't care. No one cared. So.
Just didn't care. All right, here you go. If WWE called you to do a small physical spot on next year's WrestleMania for fair compensation, are you in or are you out?
I am out, sir. No interest in working for that company whatsoever.
Nice. Well, let me jump to the WWE question. And what made you finally appear there in 05, 06? Like, what said, okay, this is like a capstone. I want to do this just to say I did it. What made you?
So, 2005 is the One Night Stand pay-per-view. And prior to that, I got a call from Shane Douglas, who was running his own separate entity. It was the same weekend. So Shane's reunion show was on a Friday. One Night Stand was on a Sunday. And I got the call. I think I got the call from Shane first, and I agreed to do his. Then Dreamer called me to do the Sunday show, but I was a surprise, right? So I couldn't tell anybody. They just said, we're going to put a coat over you. We're going to, not like anybody cared, but they smuggled me into the building. I did both shows. It was great. I got 2 paydays. It was nice, Didn't think anything of it. I just thought it was a one and done. You know what I mean? And a year later, I get a phone call and it's like, oh, the boys are getting back together. They're going to restart ECW. And I'm like, for what? Like at this point, it's 2006. Like what? And he's like, well, last year's pay-per-view, everybody loved it. So we're bringing the company back. And the way Tommy pitched it was I was going to do exactly the same thing I did for Paul. Exactly. They were going to put me with one of the top guys. I was going to manage, be a mouthpiece, whatever. My gut said, don't sign it. My gut was like, no, this is bad. Don't do it. But then my head was like, this is probably my last run to make money. Even if it fails, I can put some money in the bank, So that's the reason why I did it. I said, this is my last run. Let's see where it goes. I asked if I could sign for 1 year. They said, no, you have to sign for 3. And I was like, I'm never going to last for 3 years. I knew that. I lasted 6 months because I don't politic. That's why.
Right. Well, I mean, at that point, was it like, okay, it's time to hang this up? The physical tolls just not worth it. I mean, you were, probably getting ready to settle down and get a family by that point. What was the deal there? What made you just retire and say, okay, I'm going to do other things?
Yeah. So I when I was working for WWE, I met who's now my husband. I was dating him. And we were getting really, really serious at that point. And I got engaged. And I said to myself, well, I want to start a family because I was 36 years old. That's not a young chicken. So I said, I don't want to be on the road with a baby at home. So I did. No, I don't want to leave my kids. I mean, not judging people who do it. I waited a long time to be a mother. I want to enjoy it. So I basically quit the business, and I have two gorgeous children. But when they started to get old, I was still getting phone calls to do all this indie work. And I always turned it down. No, I don't want to do it. And then like my husband was just like, it got to a point where the kids were kind of older and it wasn't like changing diapers anymore. They're potty trained. It's a little easier for him to be home a weekend with the kids. And he's like, well, why don't you start taking bookings again? I was like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. I said, okay. And I started them. I guess my son was maybe 2 or 3 years old at the time. And I've been doing them ever since, you got out and then they pulled me back in like the Godfather or Scarface. When you think you're out, they pull you back in.
Right.
And that's
right back in.
I was completely out of the business for years. And then I started doing local stuff that I can drive to. And now I'm on planes going to all these crazy places. But it helps. It helps with the bills. It's, it's good.
Oh, yeah. All right.
People don't want to see me.
Doof asks Francine versus Stephanie McMahon. Who's going to win there?
Jeez, I don't know. Stephanie's pretty tough. I don't know. I'm a fan of Stephanie's. I really am.
I like Stephanie too. I mean, it's being the daughter of somebody like Vince McMahon has got to be way harder than people realize. Like Shane O'Mac, whatever, you're a guy who can just do whatever. But like, how Vince is, and like to deal with all that and how she did it. And she was a big heel for the longest. When she first came out, people hated Steph.
Sure.
Hated her. Brought the heat. Great worker, though. I do love Steph too. Blake asked this question. This is kind of silly, but he hears about guys having, the ring rats supposedly. Any chicks like that who had I go to Utah and there's this really big Mormon guy I hook up with. Anything like that? Or
I mean, I never did. I'm sure we could have, because again, the arena was 99% male And then you have the speckle of the females that were in there. So I think we all could have had rats if we wanted them to, but I just never, I never dated any fans from our shows.
Now, have you ever worked in Cleveland or have any memories of Cleveland area, Ohio, anything like that?
Oh yeah, we worked. I don't remember the building, but I do remember working in Cleveland because we all sang the Drew Carey song, "Cleveland Rocks."
Oh, nice. Heck yeah. Yeah, it was redone by. It was originally done by Ian Gehring, I think his name is, because the original song was "England Rocks," and then he redid it to make Cleveland Rocks.
You're just a plethora of information. You have all the backstory on everything, don't you?
Oh, when I retire, I want to be a tour guide for this area because that's all I've been doing my whole life is studying stuff like that. But like, and then when Drew Carey show came out, the Presidents of the United States of America redid it for that song, or for that show. So that's a great version too, because like Parma's. I mean, there's a whole 3-minute version of it. You know, "Moon over Parma, where those pink flamingos stand." It's a great song, man.
Yeah, very good.
Now, what about overseas? You ever been to the UK?
I've been to the only places I've worked are Canada and Japan.
Okay.
I never took any UK tours. Never went to Australia. I don't know. For me, if I have to go alone, I won't go. I have to have one of the boys come with me. I don't trust people. Nowadays, I'm skeptical. We get all these kinds of offers. I mean, back in the 90s, you would get an indie booking. They'd pick you up in a white van. You know, you're getting in no windows. You're just going with strangers. Like, I can't tell you how many times, and thank God nothing bad ever happened to me, you know, but that's the way it was back then in the indie scene. You just got all these requests and you would just get in these weird cars. Like today, I wouldn't go with anyone that I didn't know unless one of the other guys were coming with me. So I'll skip a tour. Is
that just I mean, obviously a lot of stuff's changed with just the internet and, you know, awareness, but like, is that just a sign of the times? I mean, back then you probably had to do whatever it took to get a job. I mean, and now, you know, there's a lot more awareness of it. Maybe the internet just made it a little bit easier, but yeah, I mean, I would agree too.
I mean, we didn't have the internet. I mean, it was around, but you didn't have social media back then. You know what I mean? It was like everything was done through email. And you got these crazy emails and you didn't even know these people, but you wanted to work, you know, and I can't tell you how many. I mean, I took a booking once in Canada where I had to cross the border. They flew me into Buffalo and then I get in this van and they crossed the border and I actually got detained at the border and they brought me, I'm not lying to you, they brought me in this, it was like this interrogation room with this light. It was like a movie. And they asked me what I was doing in Canada, and I had to lie because I didn't have a work visa. So I said, "Oh, we're going to the casino," and there were these cards made up of me. I was actually going to a strip club to sign autographs, right? But on the cards, it looked like I was a dancer. The way they made these cards, and the lady goes, "Well, what is this?" And I go, "Oh," I said, "I have to stop at this strip club because I'm doing this free appearance." You know, because I'm a worker, I can think like really quickly. And for 45 minutes, they kept me in this room and the lady followed us to the strip club. So I wasn't allowed to sign anything. I couldn't touch any money. And the DJ's like, "Francine, come on pass out t-shirts." I'm like, "I'm not doing anything, bro. I'm just going to sit here." Because that little lady is sitting there. She's watching me. And I mean, that was like movie stuff. Like, who does that? Like, it was in my face. I was scared to death. Never again. Never crossing the border with strangers ever again.
Reminds me of that 70s show. What's your purpose in Canada, eh?
Yeah, I thought on my feet really quick. I said we were going to a casino, but then the freaking cards got me. And they destroyed the dude's van. Back then we had cassette tapes. They pulled they were just being dicks, but they were just pulling all the tapes out and they wrecked the guy's van. I felt so bad for him.
That's awesome, man.
Thanks,
so do you watch American Dad at all? And do you like your namesake's character?
American Dad? No, I don't watch it. I know there's a Francine. She's the mom. Yeah, but I don't watch that show. It looks cute.
She's a good motherfucker. I don't watch American Dad as much as I used to. I like The Simpsons and Family Guy, but even then, it's hard to find time for shows like it was back then. It really is. Now, how long have you been on Cameo, and do you like doing those better than like this kind of YouTube, or what's your favorite thing to do virtually?
I like everything, you know. Cameo, I think I've been on for maybe, I don't know, 1 or 2 years now. Cameo's fun. They're mostly heel promos that you have to cut. So some of the requests I have to decline because they're out there. I mean, they're weird. But it's been fun doing Cameo. The YouTube I like. I have my own YouTube. It's ECW Diva Francine. I like doing like the lives, and we post things from my podcast, which is eyes up here. And we'll do live Q&As on there. I tried Twitch, but I feel like Twitch is for the young kids. It just wasn't my cup of tea. I mean, you got girls standing in blow up pools in a bikini with a Wii in their hand doing dances, and they're getting millions of dollars. And I'm like, this is not my deal. I have to go back to YouTube. So I'm back on YouTube now. But
yeah, definitely. I don't people. Yeah, I don't get Twitch at all. I mean, I know the video gamers like it, but like, I see how much they take from the creators and how they operate. Seems like a grifting scheme, but like, it is what it is. I mean, Twitch is whatever. But do you have anything else to promote? Tell us a little bit more about the YouTube show and how people get a hold of you.
Yeah, well, the YouTube, I do vlogs. So like when I go to Ohio and PA, I'll bring my video recorder and I'll tape Sandman and I do behind the scenes at signings and shows and stuff like that, so you can get a behind the scenes look. But we do pull clips of the guests that I have off of my podcast, Eyes Up Here. We put those clips up as well. And I do lives, just like the one you're doing now. So you come on, ask us questions, play games, stuff like that. It's a good time. I like it. Yeah,
right there. Check her out. I pinned it at the top. You guys want to check her out? She's a great YouTuber. Thanks for joining us, Francine. It's been amazing. Tomorrow, join us at 2:00. We got Kenna Macrono from Office Space, Corporate Accounts Payable Nina speaking. Just a moment. She's going to be on. Very good friend of the show. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. We'll talk to you guys later. Appreciate it.